G'day, you beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. Had a day off yesterday. Wasn't feeling very well, but we're back at it again. We do have what is undoubtedly the Wukong release trailer coming out over this weekend. So we'll be getting to that in, I believe, tomorrow night here in Australia. And then I'm going to try really hard to get a few hero guides and build guides out over the weekend, but I thought we would continue this trend with talking about the basics of things for all the new players that are coming into the game before all this stuff starts to happen, so I can get it out of the way. And then I can actually focus on getting a Wukong build guide out for Tuesday, and get the couple of things that I wanted to get done. So I want to talk about casters. We're going to be pretty much assuming that you're playing a caster in the mid lane. Doesn't mean you have to play him in the mid lane, but for the main majority of games, you're probably going to be having one of these casters we're going to talk about in mid lane. That is not the build that I wanted to go for. We'll go for Margash. So with casters, you have all affinities over a load of casters. Some are very elusive. They have very good getaways. Excuse me for 1 second. Some do not. Some have some forms of hard CC. Some have soft CC. And for the most part, they play out very differently. So there's several ways that you can actually build a caster and have it be effective. There are a couple of ways to build a caster that are just, for lack of a better word, stupid. So we're going to have a quick look at Margash. Margash is a really good caster in that, just in the fact that she is growth and corruption. And the corruption really helps her because having a very low damage tick ability like her hive, it ticks for very small numbers. It's hungry for penetration. The way that the game generally works is that if an ability does a very high amount of damage in one hit, you can get away with not running pen because it's still going to do a high amount of damage. If you are applying low level amounts of damage with ticks and whatnot, you actually kind of really want the pen because it's already a low enough number that the armor is just mitigating so much, and it makes it less and less effective. So if we have a look here and we put Margash back to level 1, you'll notice that every hero is the same. They all start with 20 ability resistance and they end up at 30.5, or in the case of what this tells you, rounding up, 31. So this is why someone like Margash or Gideon are in a very good place, because it's easy for them to get that 30 pen. Just running 2 9-point shadow scrolls with a major shock and 1 6-point shadow scroll with just all minor casts gets you your 30 pen. That leaves you with a spot for your ward, a spot for something like Tainted Magic and Thick Blood. Now this is a very good build that we took a look at when Phase came out, because it reduces it gives blight, so it's reducing their healing by 40%. So when actually attacking the carry or the phase herself, you're doing so much more damage because they are not healing for as much. So also we have Tainted Magic, which is going to be adding extra damage to all your ticks. So if you mark someone and hive them, you're going to be adding extra damage on there, while also having the pen to allow those low damage abilities to do what they're supposed to do. Okay, that doesn't mean just because she has low damage abilities that she's the only person that you should run pen on, because anyone that is actually corruption, say if we take a look at Countess, if I can find her build, it should have been up top there, but it is not. Someone like Countess is built around being able to absolutely delete people. She is a assassin and a caster all in one. Don't take any notice to these fountain spikes. I need to get rid of them. They're really stupid. I tend to put them on just to make life a little bit easier. So Being corruption as well, a lot of people actually run Necroveil on Countess. It's extremely good with her. So what I do is I actually run a 2-point shock on there, and I run one Shadow Scroll. Okay, that gets me my 30 pen. So for the rest of my build, I actually just run a Brawler's Ward. This should actually be, these upgrades should be replaced with this. I always like to have my Ward be one of my most expensive cards, because if you look at the Brawler's Ward itself, you're getting 6 power, 30 max mana, and then 6 power for upgrading it. That's 3 CP worth of upgrades. Whereas with this Elder Mage Amulet that I've made more expensive, you're actually getting 4 CP worth of upgrades. So it's much more beneficial for you to have this be cheaper than the Brawler's Ward. So that's a mistake on my part. And the rest of the build, I actually just use Elder Mage Amulets. This is something that a lot of people actually do with Countess. It allows you to get your 30 pen in one card, or 1.5 cards. You have your elusiveness with Necroveil, and then just the passives on these 3 Elder Mage Amulets gives you an extra 540 health, taking you up to, oh, that's loud, taking you up around 2000 health. I'll just turn the volume off on that sucker. So that is another really, really good way to build. We're not sacrificing much damage to get this extra health. As you'll see with Countess, you're still doing dirty numbers on all of her abilities. Her feast is still going to hit for 750, and considering the fact, like we said, we have the 30 pen, it's pretty much true damage. Okay, we don't have to allow for resistance. Now, where things get a little bit different is where corruption is not the main part of a caster's build. Someone like, I still don't know why this is called Vanessa. I don't even know why I named it Vanessa. So right here, Ashley Witch is obviously a universal card now. But someone like Faye can actually do really, really well by using cards like Venom Shell, Thorn Greenweave, that gives you the ability to slot armor while getting fully upgraded bonus of power. She's also intellect, so she has access to burst engines, which are very, very good cards for intellect casters. We have a ward there and a little bit extra health, so you can kind of build sort of tanky with a caster and still have a dirty amount of damage. This is also a very good way to build. You might have noticed by now that there are certain things that are not appearing on any of these builds. The one last one that I would like to look at is my Lieutenant Smelly Fart build for Lieutenant Belka. This is very different to the rest of them as well. We have a Hydroverser and an Infinity Stream. These two cards work extremely well together, and this is a full intellect build. No order cards used in this whatsoever, because the intellect is just so strong. And the way that I build this is to actually make a Magna Lens to get us a little bit of mana regen and some power when we fully upgrade it. We're not actually at 30 pen, but it is close enough. We also grab a bit of health on her. We have our ward, that's one of our more expensive cards. And then we have 6 points left, which I normally either put into a cast converter or into another Solaris reactor. The reason why I build her this way, it doesn't seem like she has much power, but keep in mind she's got Hydroverser as well, so she's gaining 7% of her current mana as power, as damage rather. So she will be around the 200 mark. And with Infinity Stream and your Solaris Reactor, and the little bit on Magna Lens and the slotted upgrades, you are actually sitting at, it says here that you're sitting at 7.2, but you're actually sitting at around about, for the majority of the game, you're going to be at about 10 mana regen. And with the fact that you get mana back with your bomb and such, she just ends up being a very, very good hero, because she has mana coming out the wazoo and she can steal it from you. So this allows her to play the role that she was kind of intended to play, to be a caster bully. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can actually build casters that work. The main things to note is that we're going for, in most cases, going for 30 pen, especially, like I said, if they have low tick abilities. we're going for pretty much all power. There are certain instances where you could use, on some of the less mobile casters, use some form of blink, which would be fine. On certain casters that are not classed as burst casters, it is fine to run a little bit extra health, a little bit of armor maybe, that is fine. The one thing that I see people doing that you really shouldn't do is run attack speed, crit, and lifesteal. I see quite a few Gideons still that run attack speed very early, like their second card, and they run lifesteal and crit chance. It's really not very good for a caster. You may be upping the damage on your basic attacks, but if you think about it, being able to do 300 to 400 basic attacks is great, but if you're playing someone like Howitzer that can, with a full power build, actually delete someone pretty much with a mine and a missile, you don't really need all those basic attacks. It's just taking away from the things that make you the strongest, especially when you consider, say, gadgets, Gideons, and Howitzer's ultimates synergizing so well with Decker and doing amazing amounts of damage. You running that crit is actually hurting your team because you're not actually putting the full amount of power into those ultimates, which scale well and do a lot of damage. So I think I've dribbled on enough as it is. The things that I just want you to keep in mind are that hitting 30 pen is always a good thing, regardless of who needs pen more. As a caster, if you're going for a damage build, 30 pen is always something you should strive for. It is okay to build a bit of health or a bit of armor on someone that's not considered a burst caster, so the likes of anyone but Gideon and Howitzer. It's quite fine, and yes, I know that Countess is actually a burst caster as well, but she's also an assassin, so you could actually say that that's the wrong play there, but as long as you're getting the damage through on those abilities and you're not really suffering too much, then what's the harm? Because we're only losing sort of probably about 36 power on that build, which is not too bad considering it's already over 210. Okay. The other things is that make sure you have a bunch of 6-point cards at the start of the game, and make sure that if you're a very mana hungry character, that you actually have one that's going to help you out with mana regen, especially if you're an intellect hero like Lieutenant Bellica. They have very good cards that will help you with your mana regen. If you're a growth hero, you can use something like Gift of the Rains. You'll get a passive of health regen on Gift of the Rains while slotting cheap mana regen cards upgrades on that card. And it's just in general, just make sure you have 6-point cards. Having 6-point cards in your deck just gives you earlier power spikes. And try to build, if you can, in a 3 12-point card, 2 9-point card, and a 6-point card basis, because it will actually give you the ability to put more 6-point cards on your build, which therefore means that you have better power spikes at the start of the game. Don't do things like running crit chance, attack speed, lifesteal on burst casters. And my last tip would actually go towards gameplay. Try not to spam your abilities to get last hits on minions at the start of the game. It's much better if you actually save that mana, because being let's assume that you are, like I said, in the mid lane, you getting last hits with your basic attacks means that when it comes time for river buffs and such, you have the mana to quickly spam abilities to get your lane pushing in your favor, so you can go and get a river buff without worrying about defending your tower, and you can do what you're supposed to do and rotate to help teammates or to secure kills. So I know that was probably just a load of garbage, but hopefully some newer players out there have picked up on something that is of help to them. If you enjoyed this video in any way, shape or form, please smash the like button, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Or if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to ask in the comment section down below. No one's going to make fun of you here, and we'll try to get you as much help as humanly possible. And subscribe if you're not already. I think I already said that, but I might not have said that, so I'll just say it again, subscribe if you're not already. With that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I love your face, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.